back, my friends, to the show that never ends. What you're watching, Angel 65. This is my music review section, and I just review all things prog related and whatever comes to mind. So today's review is of the complete 1969 recordings by King Crimson, a 26-disc mega box set. This video is going to be split into 3 different sections. First, I'll just show you the box. I will unbox it and give you a glimpse of what's inside. We will look at the content, which really fits into 3 categories. There's live material, there is the album mixes, and then there's the complete recording sessions. And then I'll just give you an overview, some of my general opinions, and why you may or may not be interested in this, as well as give it a rating. So we'll go ahead and start with that unboxing. That's coming up next. You'll see me open the box and show you what's inside. Alright, here is the unboxing of the box set, King Crimson, the complete 1969 recording. So there is the outside of the box. It comes in this paper white slip case. We have the spines, so I'm going to go ahead and show the back cover. This gives a rundown of everything that's in the discs, as well as a little blurb about the band. Take that out, and you have the wonderful front cover of In the Court of the Crimson King. This is the outer 12-inch box. The theme is repeated on the back, and then once we open up the box, the inside of it has the Crimson King illustration from the inside of the album cover. So on top here we have this press kit, which has a bunch of memorabilia. We've got this little pamphlet, which just shows some of the King Crimson other releases in the box set series, as well as the CD, DVD series, some live stuff, tour boxes, etc. Got this backstage pass. It says Bob Fripp on it. We've got these little EG band bios. There's one for the whole band, as well as one for each of the members: Ian MacDonald, Greg Lake, Pete Sinfield, Michael Giles, and Robert Fripp. We've got this flyer for the Plumpton Festival. The show is included in the box, so there's just an overview on the front, as well as dates featuring King Crimson's residency on the back. We've got this fold-out poster, which is for Friars Aylesbury, July 28th, as well as East of Eden. Then we've got these press photos from the Atlantic press kit. There's Robert Fripp, Greg Lake, Ian MacDonald, Michael Giles, Pete Sinfield, and then a picture of the whole band at Ewell Technical College. We have this note. I don't remember what this is. I think this has to do with the contract that's also in here. This is a review by Pete Townsend of the album. This is a flyer from the Atlantic press kit talking about King Crimson being signed to Atlantic Records in the US. Here is an itinerary for all of 1969 with studio dates and live dates. I'm not sure whose this is. I'd imagine it was Robert Fripp, but I'm not sure. This is a set list. I think maybe this was written by Ian MacDonald, if not Robert Fripp. And then here's that aforementioned contract, which shows the band changing their name from Giles, and Fripp to King Crimson. Or sorry, this one actually has to do with financing Giles, and Fripp before King Crimson even started. And then there is just the outer folder, which has the band members and the instruments on it. Up next we have this bonus disc insert, which all of the King Crimson box sets have. We have disc 25, which is Giles, and Fripp. And then we have disc 26, which is BBC Sessions. And then on the back is just a tape box cover from Wessex Studios, where they recorded the album. And then we have this 44-page booklet. So that front cover is, again, that same photo from Ewell Technical College. We have the tour dates, tape box covers, and then the complete track listing for all the discs except 25 and 26, which were in that little bonus disc insert. There's an intro by Robert Fripp, and then throughout the rest of the book is just pages, memorabilia, and an essay by Sid Smith. There's Giles, Gals, and Fripp before King Crimson started. There's Greg Lake and his jazz bass, Robert Fripp and his Les Paul Custom, Ian McDonald and some of his various wind instruments, and the Mellotron. We have Michael Giles, Pete Sinfield, we have the Tale of the Tapes, which is David Singleton talking about some of the tape sources, box credits, and then there's various vinyl labels from the album. And then on the back cover we just have these contact sheets of the bands at Wessex. There's actually one thing that is not in this box, which is just a fold-out print of the Court of the Crimson King album cover. It's just a gatefold cardstock paper with the front and back covers. I have it framed on my wall, but you should know what the cover looks like, so no point showing that. And then at the bottom we have the various CD wallets that have all the discs in them. So this first one is Hyde Park, Marquee, and Plumpton. I'm not going to take all these discs out, I'll just show you the outer boxes. We have Chesterfield, which is 2 CDs, and Fillmore East, which is 2 different shows contained on 1 disc. We have the Fillmore West, the original master edition, and the alternate album. We have the 2009 and 19 stereo mixes, as well as Let's Make a Hit Waxing, which is the session reel hour in the studio. And then we have 2 sets dedicated to the sessions, the complete recording sessions, which are spread across 6 CDs. We have the Sessions DVD, the 2019 Mixes DVD, and the Sessions Blu-ray. So we have the Sessions on CD, DVD, and Blu-ray. And then lastly we have the 2009, 2019, and 2020 Mixes Blu-ray. And as you can see, all of these are tinted red, and they just have various pictures of the band members and some lyrics, memorabilia, etc. So that's everything that is in the box. That's all 24 discs, and as you can see, the individual CD wallets in the corners all form 69 for the top layer and the bottom layer, which is a common theme throughout the box set series. So that is the box set. Okay, now that you have seen the inside of the box, let's talk about what's actually in it. There's 2 things that need to be stated right off the bat, which are, even though this has 26 different discs in it, there are not 26 discs of unique content. There's a lot of repeated content across different discs, which you can see just by looking at the back cover and looking at what's inside. And most of this material is previously available, so you do not have to buy the box set to get most of what's inside of it. Some of it is exclusive to the box, but only a couple things. Most of it is available elsewhere, which may influence your decision to buy it or not buy it. So I'm going to start with the first section of content inside the box, which is the live material. So we get 6 complete concerts, or almost complete. Fillmore East and West are 2 different sets that are somewhat complete. They're missing a few things here and there. They're not complete. And then we also have BBC recordings, which was disc 26. A lot of this material, in fact all of it, has been previously available either in the King Crimson Collectors Club on djmlive.com or as part of the Epitaph box set. The Epitaph box set came out in 1997, so big chunk of the material was released on that, including a lot of the BBC material, and all of it is bootlegs. None of this is official recordings by the band. All of it is bootlegs. So they are either audience recordings, or I think in one case, I think Fillmore West is a soundboard recording, which it sounds much better than the other ones, but in general, the quality of this is not good. Depending on how willing you are to put up with that, this may or may not be of interest to you. The sound quality is really not good. It's very poor, but I do appreciate what King Crimson has done by archiving every available bootleg that they can and making it available for public consumption. I think that's really great because, as Robert Fripp has stated time and time again, King Crimson is a hot date. It is not a love letter. So really, to hear the band in full swing and hear what makes them tick, you have to hear them live. So if you are interested in that, then you get the complete set of recordings that were made during that year. There are varying qualities. The Hyde Park quality is really, really poor, but it is an extremely important show. It was the show that broke them. They played to 650,000 people. The Marquee show is from the very next night. That one sounds a little bit better, probably because it's indoors. Then you get the Plumpton Festival, which sounds okay. You get Chesterfield, which sounds better than it did on Epitaph, because in this set, if you read the tale of the tapes, you can find that the original bootlegger actually gave Robert Fripp the master copy, the original cassette onto which the concert was recorded, before it was a copy of that original tape. So it does sound slightly better. So you actually get the Chesterfield show on 2 CDs, as well as in high resolution on the Sessions Blu-ray. I'm not sure what the point of that is, capturing a bootleg in high res. I didn't really notice any difference when I had listened to the CDs in the past. This time through, I just listened to the Blu-ray because I just went for the highest resolution that was available. And then after that, you get Fillmore East and Fillmore West, again, 2 shows each. The Fillmore West is, of course, historically significant too, because they are the last 2 shows the band played before breaking up when Ian and Michael left. It was also the shows where Greg Lake met backstage with Keith Emerson and formed the embryo of what would become Emerson, Lake, and Palmer. And then you get the BBC sets. There's 2 different recordings there, not technically live, but they were on the John Peel show, I think. So those are of relatively decent quality. I believe the masters are better than the ones found at the ones that were included on Epitaph. I think these are lower generation masters that they were able to find. And on the first disc, Hyde Park, you actually get a little bonus, which is about 15 minutes of interview of the band listening to the Epitaph live recording playback back in 1997. So the original 5 members reunited, they listened to the playback, and you can hear some of their commentary about just what they thought of the recordings and the time period, which is fascinating. I will say it's mostly dominated by Greg Lake. He definitely talks more than anybody else in that little interview, but it's a cool little tidbit to have, so I'm glad they included that. So that sums up the live material. Again, all of it's on CD except Chesterfield, which is duplicated in high resolution on the Blu-ray. All previously available. Then you get the next section of the box set, which is the complete sessions. So that is included on 6 CDs, on DVD, and on the Blu-ray. I went for the Blu-ray. Now, I will admit, I am not the kind of person that totally finds this interesting. I really think it's cool that they included them. So you get every single take of every single song without overdubs that was done before the masters were selected and overdubs were added. So you get various takes of all the songs except Schizoid Man, because you get the Morgan instrumental take from before they switched to Wessex Studios. But that's it, because you did 1 take of it at Wessex, so the 1 take they did is the master. So you'd get, excuse me, multiple takes of every song except that one. I really am not the kind of person that wants to sit there and listen to them play the same song over and over again with very minor variations. So I did listen to this through. I wasn't fully engaged, though. I was honestly just reading and had it kind of on, playing in the background. And they sound great. The mixing by David Singleton is phenomenal. They sound great. It's just, you really have to be into that kind of thing to consider that a buying point. If you really are the kind of person that wants to sit there and listen to them go through the same song over and over again, mixed in with bits of studio chatter here and there, then this might be really interesting to you. To me, it's the kind of thing that you listen to once and then never again, so I don't imagine, unless I do another review like this, that I would be going into those studio sessions again. But again, fascinating. I'm glad that they are there. It does make the box set as complete as possible. My gripe with it is that they included it on CD. I really don't understand the point of doing that. I don't know why you would include it on CD when it's much easier to just contain everything on the Blu-ray. The only thing I can imagine is that that was intended for people that maybe are listening to it in their car or something. I'm certainly not the kind of person that's going to put in a studio session CD and drive to work listening to King Crimson play the same song 10 times. I love King Crimson, but not that much. Maybe you do, and that's fine. I didn't need the CDs, so I think that was a bit superfluous in my opinion. Everything is included on the Blu-ray except one track, which is a drum check for Schizoid Man. That's weird that they didn't include that. So that one track is limited to the CD, at least I think so. I don't remember it being on the Blu-ray. It's not on the track list anyway. Combined in with that Sessions thing, you get the Let's Make a Hit waxing disc, which a couple of the other box sets have something similar to this. This is sort of an hour in the studio as compiled by David Singleton, so you get lots of chatter and then a few different takes of each song, and then you kind of just hear different elemental mixes. That was actually really interesting. That is something that I think is worth buying, and that is exclusive to the box set. It's a very good summary of all the recording sessions, and you just get a vibe for each song, as well as the band at work. So it really compiles a lot of the most interesting bits and pieces, and makes it sound sort of like if you were there, maybe this is what it would be like. Not really, but it's cool. I actually like that inclusion, so I'm glad that's there. That is also included on the Sessions DVD, and then in high resolution on disc 24, which is the Atmos DVD. I listened to it again on that Blu-ray. I didn't see the point in listening to it on CD. I don't really know why that was included, but again, maybe you're the kind of person that wants to listen to that on your commute. More power to you. And then also with the Sessions, I'm going to include Giles, and Fripp, which is all the recordings made by Peter Giles prior to them actually recording their album, or maybe they had recorded their album by that point, but those are actually from 1968, so you get those on CD as well as on the Sessions Blu-ray. Again, I went for the Blu-ray. The quality of those is actually very good. Even though they're not professional recordings, they do sound very, very good. There's very lush sounds. A lot of the harmonies and stuff, it's very Beach Boys. It's not King Crimson at all, even though some of the songs would later end up being King Crimson pieces. That's fascinating. Again, I believe that's available separately, so you don't need the box set to listen to that, but I would check that out if you're a massive King Crimson fan and want to hear what came before. So it's Michael Giles, his brother Peter Giles, who would later play on Poseidon, Robert Fripp, and then Ian McDonald, and then I think Judy Dybel is in there on a few tracks on vocals. So that's all the stuff that falls under the category of complete sessions. Again, you really have to be the kind of person that wants to engage in that to find this worthwhile. I think it's interesting. I don't think it's a buying point for me personally. Album mixes. Okay, so that's the last category, which is all the different versions of the album in the Court of the Crimson King that you get, and you do get a lot. So I will start with the original Master Edition. This is not the 30th anniversary remaster. The original Master Edition was compiled in 2002, I believe. And this was actually a fresh master because, as was told in the Tale of the Tapes, prior to that, the original master tape that was used for all prior remasters and reissues, the machine that captured the crossfade between I Talk to the Wind and Epitaph was actually slightly out of alignment, so they had to correct it artificially, whereas on this master, they found the original mixed tape masters of I Talk to the Wind and Epitaph, so they were able to recreate the crossfade with first generation tape and not have to correct it. So that sounds fantastic. Of course it does. That's great. It's the original album. What can you say about the original album? I will do a separate review of the album itself and talk about that. The original master, great that it's there. It's on CD and on Blu-ray and on the 2019 Mixes DVD. Okay, now you get the vinyl transfers. Now this is where we start to get weird. I don't understand why those are included. I did listen to them. Again, I wasn't like fully engaged. I was kind of just reading. So you get the US mono promo copy of the album transferred from vinyl, and then you get the Island Records original pressing. According to the booklet, part of the album was transferred from Robert Fripp's actual archive copy. So that's interesting. If you want to hear how the EQ differences were a little bit different between the UK and US versions. You also get a US mono single and a UK mono single from 7-inch that are transferred as well. I don't see the point in those. If you have the original master edition, which is about the highest quality version of the original album that you can get, I really don't see the point in listening to digital transfers of vinyl when you could just go listen to a vinyl, which is all analog. A vinyl, I'm a heathen, I know, an LP. I don't see the point. Maybe just for archival purposes, again, trying to make the box set as complete as it can possibly be. Definitely not something I'm going to go back to, definitely not a buying point. Then we get the stereo mixes. We have 2009 and 2019. So the 2009 stereo and surround sound mix were released in the 40th anniversary series, which is a CD DVD-A. I did have that prior to this. I got rid of it after I got this. And then the 2009 and 2019 stereo and 5.1 mixes, those were released in a 4-disc set that had 3 CDs, including the original master edition, and a Blu-ray that had the new 5.1 mix, the new stereo mix, as well as the new instrumental mixes. The instrumental mixes are really nice. I like those. That's fun to have and just hear sort of stripped back. When it comes to comparing the two stereo mixes, I guess Steven Wilson had said that he had learned a lot in the 10 years between the two mixes that he did, and so that's why he wanted to redo it and get it closer to the original. And I will say the 2019 is closer to the original in the way it's EQ'd. I actually prefer the 2009 stereo mix though. I like it more because it's more powerful, it has more bottom end, and it brings a new dimension to the album. In my opinion, if you're going to remix an album, you might as well try to bring out some quality that wasn't there in the original. So when it comes to the remixes, I prefer the 2009 stereo remix. I wouldn't say I prefer either of them to the original master edition though. The benefit you get with these remixes is that everything's first generation digitally transferred. You don't have bounces because of all the layers of overdubs that were added, so everything is of a higher sound quality, but it's hard to recapture the original. Again, I prefer 2009, you may prefer 2019, vice versa, and then you get the same ones in stereo and then 5.1. Between the two 5.1 mixes, I would say the 2019 one is probably more like the original album, just spaced out. The 2009 one, again, there's more liberties taken, particularly on Moonchild, with things like Greg's Lake is panned in the center instead of to the side, and the way the 3 instruments during the solo section are kind of panned around you is just a little bit different. So between the two 5.1 mixes, I probably would say I prefer the 2019 one, even though I prefer the 2009 stereo mix. I know this is getting bitty and ridiculous, but it's all in here, so I'm talking about it. But the real buying point of the box set is the Atmos mix. That is what is brand new, that is unique to the box set, that has never been heard before, the 2020 Atmos mix. I will admit, when I initially got this box set, and then sold it, and then reacquired it, at the time, I did not have an Atmos system, so I didn't really think of that. But now that I do have a pseudo Atmos system, it's not full Atmos. I don't have speakers in my ceiling. That's just not feasible for my house. I do have 5.1.2, so I have 2 in the front, 2 in the back, center, and then I have 2 Dolby speakers on my rear speakers, which are up-firing and sort of recreate the overhead effects. I gotta say, when I first got into Atmos, the reason I did it was not because I thought it would be that much better. I just saw that a lot of new box sets coming out had Atmos mixes, so I figure I better upgrade while it's still relatively cheap to do so, because if I'm going to continue buying these box sets, I might as well have a system that's capable of playing them at least somewhat properly, even if it's not the full 7.1.4 setup, which I don't think I'm ever going to do that. But that said, the Atmos mix is fantastic. It is so much better than the 5.1 mixes, not only because it's closer to the original, but just because Atmos really does add atmospherics, hence the name. Those overhead effects and the way that everything is object-based and not channel-based means that you really feel like you're in the middle of the sound itself, not just sounds coming from here, 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 here. It really sounds like the sound is just everywhere in a sphere surrounding you. It's a very three-dimensional experience. That's the best way I can describe it. All of the Steven Wilson Atmos mixes I have heard have been phenomenal, and this is no exception. This is a great, great, great Atmos mix, and I highly recommend you check it out if you can. On the Atmos disc, you also get an updated quad mix of the I Talk to the Wind duo version, which is not entirely necessary, but it sounds cool in that format, so that's nice to have. So that's all the mixes of the album, and then you get the alternate album and additional material, which is largely the same on the 2009 and 2019 mixes. It's just remixed again. Again, I don't particularly see the point in that, but it's nice to know that everything that's available is there. So a quick rundown of what is in that. On the 2009, the additional material, you have the Moonchild full version because they decided to edit it in the remix. I don't know why, so you get a full version of the remixed track. I Talk to the Wind, the duo version. I Talk to the Wind alternate mix, which is mostly the same as the album take, except at the end you get a different Ian McDonald solo, and then there's a little bit of a Robert Fripp guitar solo, which there's not on the album version. Epitaph backing track, which is just instrumental and has some of the overdubs, not all of them. And then Wind Session, that's just a little sneak peek of them creating the sound effects at the beginning of the album, which again, you hear a lot of that stuff on Let's Make a Hit Waxing too. The alternate album, you get an instrumental of 21st Century Schizoid Man trio version, so it's just minus sax. I Talk to the Wind run through, just an alternate take. Epitaph, an alternate mix, has some different things highlighted. Moonchild, the first take, which all of the takes of Moonchild are interesting. That's actually the one part of the Sessions disc I did like because there's 9 takes, and Greg Lake actually sings a live vocal on all of them because he's not playing bass, so he's actually singing a live vocal. So the take that they used, which was take 9, is a live vocal. That was not overdubbed. That's actually him singing on top of the other 3 members playing. And then an alternate take of Court of the Crimson King. Largely the same thing on the 2009 mixes. However, you do get a couple more interesting tidbits. You get Epitaph isolated vocal, which is kind of cool to hear Greg Lake's voice by itself. Really, he's just a fantastic singer, so it's great to hear that. You get the Morgan instrumental take, which I had mentioned, again, on the Sessions disc, but you get that take here too. And then you get, this is probably the most interesting thing, which is that take, the Morgan instrumental of 21st Century Schizoid Man, but it has Jacko Jaksic and Mel Collins, both from the most recent King Crimson, duetting with Robert Fripp and Ian McDonald's solos. And then they just took Greg Lake's take of vocals from the master take and compiled it onto that. So you get a full alternate take of the song, even though another one doesn't technically exist, with different solos on it. So that's cool. And then you get that mono Court of the Crimson King single again, which is on the vinyl transfers, etc., etc. So that's everything. I didn't go completely track by track because I feel like that would be a bit ridiculous. But that's everything that's on there. So the live material, the studio material, and the different versions of the album. So the only things that are completely unique to this box set are the Atmos mix and Let's Make a Hit Waxing. Everything else, Skiles, Gals, and Fripp, the session materials, and all of the alternate versions of the album, except for the vinyl transfers, unless, of course, you have the vinyls. I said it again, oh my gosh. Are there. So it is as complete as it can be. Whether or not it's a good buy for you depends on a few things. So, if you do not have the 40th anniversary mix and the 50th anniversary mix as separate packages, and you are interested in the studio materials, you want to hear all of that, and you don't have Epitaph or any of the other live collector sets and you want to hear it, well, in this set you get everything all together, so you don't have to go searching for any of that older releases. It's all here. So if that's you, then this is a great purchase and you should absolutely get it. If you just want the Atmos mix, even though it is fantastic, if you're not interested in all the other stuff, the session materials and the live materials, I'm going to have to advise you not to buy this. The Atmos mix is fantastic, but they've broken out most of the stuff from this in different places, either before or after, so I'm going to imagine that eventually that Atmos mix will become available on its own. Maybe it already is, and I'm wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure it's still exclusive to the box set itself. It is fantastic, so if you're interested in the other stuff and that's an added bonus, go for it. If that's all you're interested in, depending on the price that you're looking at for this and wanting to keep it on your shelf just for that, That's a decision you have to make. I know that if all I had wanted was the Atmos mix, then I wouldn't have bought this. And again, I actually got this set before I had a system that was capable of playing it. Now that I have a system that's capable of playing it, I absolutely am so thrilled that it's there, and it is the go-to version of the album other than the original Master Edition, or in my case, I have the original US vinyl, which is one of my more collectible records, so that's my go-to copy, but the Atmos is probably second in command after that, and that's a great way to listen to it. Really, it all comes down to, do you have any of the previous issues of this? If you want this, are you willing to sell those to make up some of the difference? That's what I did. I had Epitaph, I had the 40th and 50th sets. I eventually sold those because everything else that I want is in here and it's all in one place, and those bootlegs have been cleaned up a little bit further with more enhanced technology, so they do sound slightly better than they did before, but again, you're talking about very limited quality recordings, so there's only so much you can do to make it better. Which reminds me, there is one thing I forgot. On the BBC disc, there is an additional bootleg track after the BBC tracks of them playing Trees, which later evolved into A Man, a City, and Pictures of a City at Fairfield Hall in Croydon. Absolutely abominable recording quality. They say it's recorded just for historical purposes. Since it's supposed to be complete, yes, it should be there, but it is absolutely unlistenable. I cannot stand it. There is a horrible ringing effect. It sounds like it was recorded all the way across the auditorium, wherever this Croydon Fairfield Hall was, and you can barely make out anything at all, and it's actually quite displeasing to listen to. It sounds out of phase, and like there's ringing happening. So, fascinating to hear this extended piece that was later trimmed down, but it just is a shame that there's not a better recording of it. That was the only time it was known to have been played, and that's the only recording that exists. So, not a buying point by any means. I just thought I would mention that. So, now that I've talked about it and some of the buying points and whether you think you would want this or not, I'm going to give it a rating. I'm going to go with an 8 out of 10. Reason being, I would take 2 points off for the main thing which frustrates me about all of these King Crimson sets, which is organization. There is so much duplication across the CDs and the Blu-rays. I would prefer to have all the live material on 1 or 2 Blu-rays and just have maybe the album itself on CD. Really, if you're listening to this kind of stuff, high resolution is the way to go, I think. And so having all these extra discs is just completely unnecessary. I don't know why they do that. They've done it in all of the King Crimson sets, as well as DVD-A versus Blu-ray. If you have a Blu-ray player, play the Blu-ray, because DVD-A only sounds completely lossless if you have a DVD-A player, which I do, but I still prefer the Blu-ray because they fit more content on them, and it's just easier to navigate. That is my main frustration with these sets. In this case, again, you have the added disadvantage that most of this is available elsewhere, so if you already have it, you may be less inclined to buy it. However, I'm going to add 1 point back for the price. This was released at a very fair price, and it is still very affordable, I think. It's not out of stock. I think you can still get it on Amazon for $100 or less. I believe I may have paid $80 for this entire set, which, given that there is still at least 15 hours of material on it, even without including repeats, there's 15 hours of unique material on it. Plus, you get all those little extra tidbits, the memorabilia, if you're into that. I could take it or leave it, but it's nice to have, I suppose. The price is what makes me add a star back. So, that is why I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. So, -3 for organization, but +1 back for the price. So, if you don't have any of this material and you're interested in it and can find it for $100 or less, I would say go for it, especially if you have an Atmos system and you're capable of playing this, which I realize most people don't, but then again, if you're a nerd that's into this kind of music like I am, you probably do. So that I would say is the biggest thing going in its favor. However, if you have everything except the Atmos mix and you can just are the kind of person that would want to listen to those sessions online, they're available on dgmlive.com. I don't know how much they cost, but they are there. The box set itself tells you that. Then you probably want to give this one a miss. I will say, in terms of packaging, the CD wallets, again, I don't really like the way that's done, but it is cost effective, so I'll take it. And the booklet is very nice. The essay by Sid Smith is great. A lot of those pictures are great, certainly pictures I haven't seen before. really detailed essay that talks a lot about the context of the time, the band, and just the beginning to the end of that year. So it's a very thorough essay and is very nice. I believe it might all be included in his book, In the Court of King Crimson. I've not read that book. I want to get around to it, but great booklet. That's another buying point for me. So that's everything. 8 out of 10. Leave your comments below. If you have the box set, tell me what your thoughts are. If you were thinking of getting it and are now not, or if you weren't sure if you wanted it and now you think you will go look for it, let me know that as well. Just tell me what your general thoughts are. If you agree or disagree, I won't be offended. I'm not that kind of person. So these are my thoughts. These are how I would recommend it to a new buyer, especially someone who's newer to the deeper King Crimson catalog. Maybe you just know the studio albums but not the deeper live and archival stuff. So that's how I feel about this. Tell me what you think. Thanks for watching, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.